now available in paperback and e-readers. Spellbound, A Darker Shade of Black. Get your copy today at your favorite online bookseller. Educated does not mean smart, and I saw that proved to me yesterday when I was watching Channel 7's Here and Now. And on Channel 7's Here and Now, they had one of the leaders of the Black Lives Matter movement for Greater New York. And this guy, who even though he had a law degree, was a straight up imbecile. Listening to him, I just had to shake my head. He's sitting there with Sandra Bookman and pretty much stating the case of the Black Lives Matter movement as it relates to Greater New York. And the things he was saying were completely insane. Now, this Black Lives Matter guy, who has a law degree, was sitting there saying that, black people shouldn't have voted in the 2016 election. And Black Lives Matter was telling people not to vote in the 2016 election. Even though many of these people say that this was the most important election in American history, they sat there and said Donald Trump is a racist and that they did not want to see Donald Trump elected. However, their solution to this problem is to not vote at all. When you think about that, that's completely insane. And it's just mind-boggling when you really think about it. You're mad because Hillary Clinton and the Democratic Party did not meet your needs, so you decide to tell black people to go sit out even though black people are being killed by the police. So instead of Black Lives Matter creating a political platform so they can have an agenda to get their needs met by politicians, what they do is decide they're just not going to participate at all. So how is that going to help anyone? Black men are still being killed by police. Black men are being killed these days by white men. But Black Lives Matter's agenda isn't to try to combat this by creating a political platform. Black Lives Matter's agenda is to tell people not to participate in the political process. Only in Bizarro World this makes sense. And even then, Bizarro is probably shaking his head at how backwards these Black Lives Matter Negroes are. Because when you really think about this, you go, that's really ridiculous. And then after he makes this statement, he's talking about rebuilding the black community. And I'm sitting there saying, how do you plan on rebuilding the black community when you don't want to participate in the political process? And we know for sure that many of you Black Lives Matter Negroes don't want to participate in the economic process, because these are the same people who say we need to rebuild the black community, but will still be at these Black Lives Matter rallies wearing Air Jordan tennis shoes that they bought from a Korean, with weave they bought from a Korean, sipping on an Arizona iced tea they bought, and a bag of Skittles that they bought from an Arab-owned store, and then start talking about group economics. And then when a black business owner like myself comes to them and talks about supporting my products, I'm called a sellout and an Uncle Tom. And they don't want to support me because I'm not pushing what they say they're for. And you listen to these Black Lives Matter people, and it's just a lot of insanity coming out of their mouths. And when I listened to this guy on Here and Now, it was just mind-boggling to me to just listen to this guy literally destroy his own position right on that show. And Sandra Bookman pretty much let him destroy his own position on that show, because he's saying that he doesn't want Donald Trump, and he's saying the Democratic Party isn't meeting his needs. And it shows how politically retarded he truly is regarding politics and elections. You don't just not participate. You can write in a candidate. You can pretty much vote for a third-party candidate. If this election is that important to you, you would think that you would be rallying black people to be a part of the political process so that the candidate you don't want to be elected would not get elected. But the Black Lives Matter movement's solution to this whole campaign 2016 was this. They were going to tell people to go out and not vote and then have no voice whatsoever, because that's the question Sandra Bookman proposed to him. So if you don't vote, then you can't have a say in the political process, and then 4 years later, you don't have any sort of platform to stand on, you don't have any position to stand on, and you have no candidate to pretty much, bring your issues to. And this is the big problem with the Afro-American Negro as it relates to politics. I clearly saw that in that Black Lives Matter, listening to this head of the Black Lives Matter for Greater New York, listening to him say that, oh, we're not going to vote for anyone, when that's politically retarded, especially when you consider that this man has a law degree and he's sitting here saying, I don't want to be a part of the political process, when the political process creates the laws for the New York area and the United States. And one of the greatest rights that you have under the law is the right to vote. And when you don't vote, you pretty much are saying you're okay with the status quo. And that's what Black Lives Matter was pretty much saying, pretty much, negating their own argument, saying that Black Lives Matter to them, and that they are okay with being codependent on white racists because, again, they need white racists in order to make money for their movement. So when you listen to these Black Lives Matter guys, they pretty much, again, kill their own position, kill their own argument in saying that Black Lives Matter because they are making a statement to the world that Black lives don't matter to them because they refuse to be a part of the political process and they refuse to work towards real social change. Because if Black Lives mattered to Black Lives Matter, you think they would be out here and trying to not only deal with these issues as related to white racism, but also trying to deal with black dysfunction, where black people are shooting black people over pieces of chicken, Colt 45s, and these black females. You think they would be focusing on that in addition to focusing on these cases of police brutality and white racism, because in order to deal with the issues in the black community, you need to have a comprehensive platform, and Black Lives Matter has shown me they don't have a comprehensive political platform. In fact, they are just as bad as the terrorists in the Ku Klux Klan back during Jim Crow, because the terrorists in the Ku Klux Klan back in Jim Crow made efforts to suppress the black vote. The terrorists in the Ku Klux Klan told black people if they did not vote the way they wanted to vote, they would suffer repercussions. And this is how they kept control over the black community and prevented the black community from having a political voice. And we're seeing with this Black Lives Matter, and what I saw on that show was a chocolate Klansman, because him telling black people not to vote and exercise their constitutional right to vote that people fought and died for was just like that Ku Klux Klansman who went out and burned crosses in front of people's houses for rallying to get them to vote for a candidate who wasn't a Democrat, who lynched people who wanted to vote against a Democratic candidate. And this guy's insanity was Hillary Clinton wasn't the candidate he wanted, and the Democrats weren't doing what was right for him. So he tells black people to not vote at all in an election, instead of trying to either create a candidate that will promote their platform, create a political party that would push their platform and their agenda, or to support a candidate or find a candidate who would support their political platform and their agenda. And being a part of the political process so that you can have a voice at the table and have a platform to get your needs met and have a political base that will get your needs met and get policies created that would help black people. But when we look at this Black Lives Matter movement, they clearly show everyone how little regard they have for black lives, and that even with this guy having a law degree, how politically retarded and how not very smart many of these Black Lives Matter people are. That's all I have to say for this video. You can comment, rate, and subscribe.